Hi, it's Dwyer. It is July 7th, 2025. GamblersAdvisory.com, a free site. BettingAngle.us, a free site. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, what I want people to do is to focus on 135 pounds. You have some players in that division who have their backers, the fans who see them, the fans who, are aware of their games. You have different camps believing that their guy is going to emerge victorious, right? These camps are hoping to pull a coup. In other words, there's uncertainty, it's in the air, the division's a little bit unsettled. We're hearing about Gervonta Davis possibly fighting Jake Paul. Who knows what rumor is real, right? Davis himself is calling out 140-pound champ Richardson Hitchens. You don't get the feeling that Davis is going to pivot and suddenly announce that he's fighting Shakur Stevenson, whose camp believes he's one of the best fighters in the game, right? Let's name some other camps. William Zepeda's camp believes he's one of the best fighters in the game, right? Let's bring some unmentioned names in. Ray Moritala, right? He's unbeaten. His camp believes he's one of the best in the game, right, folks? This even jumps generations. Abdullah Mason, his camp believes he's ready right now, right? This is kind of a variation of the Moses Atama at heavyweight, where, there are fans who believe he's going to consolidate the division, right? Tyson Fury's on record as saying he doesn't want to fight Moses Atama. Well, understand the Abdullah Mason crowd, they believe that he's going to bring the title back to the Midwest, right? So you have different groups who are trying to pull off a coup, I call it. In other words, while people are looking around at others, I would say Shakur Stevenson is probably the highest profile at 135, other than Gervonta Davis, right? Davis, let's face it, he's the standard bearer. Let me also say this too. If you disagree with any comment I make in this video, please feel free to tell us about it in the comment section. Right? Let's make this interactive. Understand too, a lot of the comment section's out of my control. If somebody says, hey man, we all know, Shakur is the standard bearer, there are buttons people can press to say, I agree, right? Let the camps be heard. But in this rubric, you have a group. We'll call them the Kid Austin group. Floyd Schofield, right? You have a group, they're upset that Floyd wasn't able to fight Shakur Stevenson. They want that fight, right? Understand, Schofield took on Tevin Farmer. Why is Farmer significant? He went the distance with Ray Moritaya. He went the distance twice with William Zepeda, Shakur Stevenson's next opponent. Folks, you're kidding yourself if you don't think for that Stevenson-Zepeda fight, both sides of that fight believe they're going to win it. You're kidding yourself if you don't realize that. Well, understand, Kid Austin decided he was going to make his case against Tevin Farmer, a southpaw, like Stevenson, like Zepeda, right? Here's Kid Austin, a guy who, has already fought some of the other groups that think they're going to be the team left standing, that think, while everyone's distracted looking at the other names, they're going to be able to walk into the casino, get favorable odds, place it on their guy, and then leave with a bounty after some fights. Well, folks, Farmer got stopped. Let me just point out the ref was magnificent. The ref looks at him. I believe the ref understood that Farmer was badly hurt. Farmer, who seems to have a twitch, right, as he moves his head up, right? The ref let the fight continue. Farmer, of course, was nodding. The ref understood Farmer is a KG vet who's been in with a lot of guys, right? The ref gave him an opportunity to continue on in the fight. The ref doesn't pull the plug until it was obvious that Farmer, who got knocked down again, could not continue. Schofield's power is explosive. It's sudden, right? Very short fight. Doesn't make it out of the first round. Schofield's power is sudden. Schofield, once he gets going, is two-handed. He's in the pocket on you. There's nowhere to go, right? You go left, you get hit with knockdown shots. You go right, you get hit with knockdown shots. Schofield is young. He's aggressive, right? But we didn't learn much in this fight, right? Understand, a fighter like Schofield, who's young, who's unbeaten, who's explosive, from my seat, since I want to know how the kid is going to handle some KG vet, I actually want to see the kid's plan B, plan C, plan D. I don't learn much. If the guy goes in there and wins on his plan A, I already knew Schofield had explosive power. We all did, right? We've all seen the highlights. I already knew Schofield's quick-handed. He has hand speed. That jumps out on you, right? What I don't know, I still don't know. Does Schofield have a developed back foot game? If a boxing match broke out in the pocket, could he outbox Tevin Farmer? Right? Folks, we don't have the answers to that. Right? This fight, while an extremely impressive performance, obviously fighters are trying to win fights. Right? But we simply don't know what would have happened in this fight if Schofield didn't land an explosive shot early. Right? Schofield is a lot like Mike Tyson. Understand what happened with Tyson. Tyson, of course, later ends up in the ring with Buster Douglas, right? Had problems with Douglas's jab. You might recall Tyson's eyes all swollen. Has a problem getting by Douglas's jab. Has a problem with Douglas's layered approach, right? Get by the jab, here's the uppercut. A boxing match broke out in the Douglas fight. Now, Tyson knocked Douglas down, but Douglas got off the canvas. Tyson was still having problems. Tyson was having problems before Douglas went down. Right? Tyson was getting outboxed. I'm not here to say Buster Douglas had a bigger punch than Mike Tyson. But you saw Tyson against Douglas, and suddenly you started thinking things you didn't think before. Reach matters. Right? You know, if a tall guy with the jab is keeping Mike Tyson outside, and if Tyson can't duck under the jab and get inside and throw some hard shots, if when Tyson gets inside, Douglas has some defense and can tie him up, then Mike Tyson could be made to look limited. Now, Schofield's 5'7", right? Just understand, And I understand Schofield has sparred in the past with Shakur Stevenson, right? So Stevenson knows him a bit, right? Folks, we just didn't know. We just still don't know how Schofield is going to deal with certain situations. Here's what I didn't like. I'm someone who believes that defense is a big part of the game, that a fighter needs to know how to lean his head out of the way, that these hyper-aggressive guys need to have some bob and weave, right? Think Joe Frazier, right? You're on your front foot. You've got to find a way while being on your front foot to avoid getting hit, right? You can't have your head leaning over the pocket, especially not with all the sluggers at 135, right, folks? Abdullah Mason hits hard. Gervonta Davis hits hard. Ray Moritala hits hard. William Zepeda hits hard, right? It's a slugger's paradise at 135, right? When you're dealing with sluggers, right? Schofield, of course, hits hard. When you're dealing with sluggers, you need to figure out how you're going to be close to them to dole out your level of punishment if you're a slugger, and how to hide your head while doing so. Now, Schofield, and I complained about this before the fight, Schofield has been headbutted in fights. Schofield has scar tissue. Opponents know where to find his head, right? Understand, many opponents are desperate against him because Schofield is offensively blessed. He gets close to you, he's throwing bombs with both hands, right? An opponent caught out of position has a choice, right? Either I fight dirty, headbutt him to get him out of the pocket if I can't punch him out of the pocket, or I get stopped, right? So let me just say, what I didn't like here is Schofield starts great from my perspective. He's a little bit outside. Schofield can move. There's no question about that in my eyes. He has the legs to move around the ring. He has foot speed. The question for me is whether he can move and fight, right? Does he have a back foot? I don't know. So here he starts outside, right? He's a little bit too far outside to get hit with a hard shot. Not that Farmer is a big puncher, right? But then he jumps inside. He has success, right? Farmer is hitting the canvas, right? Now, let me just say, then Schofield, and look at his head placement. After the first knockdown, right, folks, Schofield's in the pocket. Where's Schofield's head? It's right in front of Farmer. Right, folks, the point of scheduling fights like this is to have your fighter understand, look, your head can't be there. We're fighting KG vets to get you out of the habit of having your head right there. Right? So, I still have the same questions I have about Kid Austin. He won this fight. I'm not saying he lost the fight. I'm not saying the ref shouldn't have stopped it. I thought the ref gave Farmer ample opportunity. Right? But what I am saying is, I still don't know about Schofield on his back foot. Right? I simply don't know about that. Let me say this too. Stevenson is a sharpshooter. Right? He's extremely accurate. Now here again, an opponent is going to have to find a way to get out of Stevenson's rifle scope. Right? An opponent is going to have to find a way to put something between his head and Stevenson. Or to have some kind of way when he comes inside to put a head on Stevenson's shoulder or something like that. right? I didn't see that here. Let me just say too, shootouts work until they don't, right? George Foreman in a shootout against Ron Lyle hit the canvas twice, right? We've seen great defensive fighters. We've seen fighters who most people run away from. Fighters with punching power, on par pound for pound with Floyd Schofield, right? And we've seen them get roughed up. I saw a fight years ago. Nigel Benn, heavy hitter, against a guy named Michael Watson, right? And let's just say, Watson started landing his own shots. It was a shocker at the time. And then you realize that Nigel Benn didn't know what to do when, God forbid, an opponent was landing his own shots on Benn. Right? Benn would later fight Iran Barkley, and that's a shootout. Right? I encourage people to go look at that film. Right? Abdullah Mason can't afford shootouts against Ray Morataya, against Abdullah Mason, against William Zepeda. Right? He can't. Shakur Stevenson can't afford a shootout against William Zepeda. Right? Now, Stevenson has a back foot. I don't know that about Kid Austin. Sometimes what matters is what you're not seeing. Right? I was looking at this fight. I was almost hoping, as the ref allowed Tevin Farmer to continue, I was hoping Kid Austin, who's in his early 20s, would have the vision to say, okay, I'm on top here. This round is, a 10-7 round, right? 10-8, 10-7. I have the jump on Farmer. Let me take my foot off the gas here, and let me actually box him for a few rounds, just so I can see if, I can hang with this guy. I know this is heresy. I know gamblers just want the win, right? Obviously, Kid Austin's corner wants to win. That's first and foremost, right? But he didn't get the experience in this fight. This fight was just him landing a shot early and then finishing the guy, right? We didn't learn much here. Farmer is an important name on the Kid Austin resume because of Farmer's history going the distance against Morataya and Zepeda, right? But let's just say William Zepeda, we saw Zepeda figure out how to handle a cagey, experienced southpaw counterpuncher, right? Understand, Zepeda now is going to use that experience in his next fight against Shakur Stevenson, right? Let's just say Kid Austin didn't get any of that experience. This was Kid Austin coming in. He's sudden. He threw a punch in an angle that Farmer wasn't prepared for. Let me also point out, too, that it's my belief that any fighter, this includes greats like Terence Crawford, right? Any fighter could get caught cold in the first round of a fight, even defensively blessed fighters, right? An example is Juan Manuel Marquez, first round, first fight, Manny Pacquiao, who knocked him down 3 times, right? Pacquiao sudden, like Austin, right? Very sudden. Pacquiao southpaw, right? Pacquiao with ring coverage on that straight left. Even though Marquez was clearly a cagey vet at the time of that first fight, Marquez didn't quite know the angles. Marquez's experience may have betrayed him. He might not have realized that Manny Pacquiao, could move as quickly and as suddenly as he did, and could jump into the pocket, throw the left hand, which already has ring coverage, be closer than Marquez thought, and then catch him and hurt him. Right? And of course, once you're caught and hurt, your balance isn't close to 100%. especially if you're fighting a puncher. Well, Kid Austin's sudden like that. He caught very cagey, actually very good defensively, Tevin Farmer early. He caught him flush, right? Hits Farmer in the face. Farmer obviously wasn't expecting that punch from that angle. Farmer never recovered. If they fought again, Farmer might be able to make adjustments, as Juan Manuel Marquez did. Let's remember, Marquez beats Pacquiao the third time. Let's remember, Marquez actually looks good the second and third fights, right, which are competitive. Right? Marquez, in fact, in the fight where he gets dropped, what was it, 3 times or so in the first round, is able to get off the canvas and is actually able to go the distance with Manny Pacquiao. Now here, Farmer wasn't able to recover. I don't think we should take much from this fight for either guy. Right? Farmer got caught. It happens. I've seen Farmer against high-level opposition. Right? Morataya, Zepeda come to mind. Go the distance. Right? And from the Kid Austin side of the ledger, you know, really the real questions for gamblers is, gee, does he have a back foot? What happens if he fights an Abdullah Mason and doesn't want to be in the pocket with a slugger? Right? What happens if he fights a guy with an excellent jab, Shakur Stevenson, and has to, you know, figure out how to get close to the guy? Right? Those questions remain unanswered. He's a great talent. Let's just say 135 is going to consolidate. You can't have all of these unbeaten fighters. Right? Let's name 5. Gervonta Davis. And I mean officially. I obviously believe Lamont Roach beat Gervonta Davis, but officially, Gervonta Davis, Shakur Stevenson, Ray Morataya, Abdullah Mason, Kid Austin. When you see a division with this many unbeaten fighters, you understand that you're looking at consolidation, particularly with Riyadh season now offering lucrative purses. Right? There's going to be consolidation at 135. I know when everyone's unbeaten, their teams, their fans. And boxing's really a sport where there are different factions out there. Right? You know, you have the Moses Atama faction out there. You have the Richard Torres faction out there in terms of young heavyweights. You have the Fabio Wardley faction out there. Well, you have different factions at 135. All of them believe their guy is the guy. You have contrasting styles, right? Austin, orthodox. You have the lefty crowd, who I mentioned earlier. You know, you have all these different groups. You have all these questions. Abdullah Mason on the canvas in a fight. Kid Austin, head-butted, blood coming down. You're like, gee, you know, I've watched some fighters for years, you know, with heads that are hard to find. And Kid Austin has already been head-butted and bleeding more than probably Ali his entire career. Right? And so there are questions. Folks, after this fight against Tevin Farmer, the questions remain regarding Kid Austin. We know he's fast-handed. We know he's a big hitter. We know he's explosive. We know he can jump in the pocket. We knew all of that before the fight. Tell us about his back foot. Tell us about how he actually deals with lefties in a division with, you know, a distinct left-handed contingent that includes Shakur Stevenson and William Zepeda. Right? You know, tell us if Austin can win slow rounds. Every round can't be blood and guts. Him in the pocket throwing big shots. Right, folks? Those questions remain. I didn't get the answers to those questions in this fight. Those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours. I know there's a Kid Austin contingent out there. Please feel free to give us your perspective in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.